Today's the day. Today, we get this achievement. I gotta have it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, today is the day that we buckle down and we go for this achievement. As you saw at the start there, this achievement, getting on track like a pro, requires us to make a train and stick it down on some track within 90 minutes of the game. At first, considering that I've launched a few rockets in my time in Factorio, I really didn't think that it would be too difficult for me to rush to trains. But I had no idea how my base building habits were going to get in the way. Oh yes, it's not going to be hard at all. I know what I need to do, and I just need to go about building a base. Wait. Why am I building so much? Wait. What is that handcrafting queue? Wait. Am I only now getting to automating red science? Wait a minute. I've got less than 15 minutes and I'm still planning green science? Yeah, with the habits I've ingrained into my soul, this is going to be quite a difficult challenge for me. I need some help. And there are a lot of Factorio resources out there to get help. But I decided to use the help provided by one of, if not the best Factorio speedrunners out there, Nephrums. Nephrums about 3 years ago made what he called the speedrunning guide. This guide is a little out of date by today's standards, but it's very well thought out, well documented, and he recorded a full unedited playthrough of him testing the guide out with commentary. This guide is intended for any percent speedruns of Factorio. It's not intended to be a guide for this achievement. But what I can do is I can follow this guide until a little after green science and steel is done, and then I can diverge from there and rush rails. So basically, I'll use this guide as an accelerator to my early game to stop me from overbuilding too early, which causes too much handcrafting, which causes me to have to wait for things to be crafted before I can proceed, further compounding the problems, and yeah, you can see why I need some help. With the speedrun guide on my other monitor, and the YouTube video playing as well in the background, I have the resources I need to get started. Now when it comes to map settings, I imported the map string from the speedrun guide. In short, the goal of the map is to have very rich, very large, and very frequent resources. In addition, the starting area is also much larger. This is intended to make it so that you don't really have to interact with the biters, and from there, we jump right into the map. Immediately, I clean up the rocket. Not because it's faster, it's actually slower, but because I just like a clean start. It doesn't kill the run, and I'm not going for the world record after all. On a side note, if you are interested in the getting on track like a pro world record, it's fascinating, and it's about 20 minutes long. The strategy used for are much faster than what I'm going to do. But I didn't want to do them. I wanted to play Factorio more or less in the normal-ish way. Anyway, once I've cleared my rocket, it's time for the burner phase to start. The goal of the burner phase is to basically rush to electricity as fast as you can while still having enough resources to continue to build out while you get electric mining and smelting underway. You start first with an initial focus on getting iron up and running. This is before you even start going for a coal snake. In this particular map, there's a lot of big rocks with coal deposits inside of them, making it easier to keep the iron miners fueled and the furnaces fueled as well, in order to keep the iron coming and to get the iron processed a lot sooner than you normally would if you tried to go right for a coal snake. For the burner phase, the main goals that you want to accomplish here are to mine rocks, build your burner miners, starting with iron, and try to keep handcrafting as much as possible. The number of miners that you're looking to get, as far as everything that you're going to need for the entire burner phase, is you want 10 miners on iron, up to 6 miners on copper, though you can probably make do with around 3 or 4, 16 on coal because you're going to need a lot of coal during the burner phase, and then you want at least 3, but I usually run 4 miners on stone, just dumping right into a box. From there, as far as the things that you need to craft in order to get this all done, you need to craft a total of 35 mining drills, 19 furnaces, 1 box, and then you need to start preparing for the electricity phase by starting to craft 10 red science, an offshore pump, a boiler, an electric mining drill, 2 steam engines, 10 pipes, 10 power poles, and 1 lab. What can I say? I like mining rocks. And that's my coal snake done. From here, we just take all that coal, make sure we keep all of our miners fed while we build out the numbers that we need. Let's get some copper started. And we can't forget about stone. Alright, and that's our core burner phase set up. Let's go ahead and start setting up electricity. Man, what is up with me constantly mining rocks and cutting trees? On the plus side, this burner phase is going a lot faster than my first attempt. A trick I learned while watching Nephrim's guide is that one electric mining drill can keep a boiler and 2 steam engines fed just fine. You don't have to belt it. Once we get the lab placed down, the first thing we want to research is automation, followed with logistics, and then chips, and then fast inserters. I can finally replace these mining drill ghosts. I'm not going to show you this all the time, but something that I did a lot during this run was I would pause the game by pressing shift space. That's why you're seeing the grid. Also pauses the game in the timer, just so that way I can go back, refer back to the speedrun guide to make sure I'm not missing anything, as well as rewatch any parts of Nephrim's video that I feel like I missed or that might have something important. Okay, for the next phase, it's time to start making this look a little bit more like Factorio. We'll start by cutting down more trees, of course, so that we have enough wood for the rest of the run. About 200 wood will give us 400 power poles. As soon as our automation research finishes, we want to handcraft some assembly machines and get them rolling with gear and cable automation. We'll hand feed these for now. This is just to cut down on handcrafting time. You save a lot of time by automating intermediate items and using those for handcrafting, rather than handcrafting everything from scratch. From there, we'll build a half lane of iron. We'll feed the furnaces coal from a chest for now, until we get coal mining onto a belt. We'll use this iron to add temporary red science, and then we'll also use it to automate belts. We're going to need a lot of belts. So a couple of things to point out here. I'm waiting on my handcrafting queue a little bit in order to kick everything off. It's totally fine to build on top of the resources. Again, with the map generation, there's so much iron, I'm not going to run out. And it's just faster to build things closer together, so that way there's not as much running around. So it's totally fine to build on top of the iron here. You don't have to run all the way off of it. You can see that things are starting to come together for the first half belt of iron. I have some electric miners started. They'll feed the furnaces using one half of the belt. I'm also feeding coal into a chest and having an inserter put it on the other half of the belt in order to feed the furnaces too. This results in a half line of iron plates. Now it's on to setting up the assembly machines and science. With that done, our power draw is starting to be more than just a lab, so we need to expand it. Once that's done, our next step is to get green circuits going. We'll use those green circuits in a small mall so we can stop handcrafting so much. From there, we'll fully automate red and green science. Once all that is done, we can keep research flowing, and we can expand our mall with a whole bunch more goodies. So, let's go expand power. Again, we're going to just direct feed the electric mining drills into the boilers. After expanding power, I decided it was time to actually automate getting coal onto this half line of iron. So I'm just going to go ahead and build a belt, feed it into the box, and then from there just keep using the inserter to feed the other half of the belt, because that actually keeps up just fine with the smelting column, so there's no need to tear it down and replace it. Again, we're looking to do things a little bit more quickly this time. And that's done. Moving on to the next thing. Up next, it's time to turn this half line of iron into a full line of iron. So we're just going to double the furnace stack size. From there, we need to also double our iron mining production, and then we need to reroute it so that way the iron ore goes onto both sides of the belt, with the coal going also on both sides of the belt, and then the furnaces are going to output the iron into the middle. It's actually a pretty nifty design the way that Nephrem's does this. It's very different from how I normally do it. He uses a lot more inserters than I do and a lot less splitters than I do. It's actually kind of cool. Still have a bit of a handcrafting cube problem, okay? I can't solve all my problems in just one extra attempt. With the full iron stack complete, it's now time to work on a half stack for copper. From there, we just keep using undergrounds and inserters to continue to feed coal into the copper furnace stack. Up next is a pretty small setup for green chip production. These power poles just having lines strewn everywhere is really annoying, but for the sake of speed, I'm not going to tear them down and make them perfect. With the green circuits done, I can add automation for the yellow inserters. These are going to go into a box for now, just so that way I don't have to handcraft them, but we're going to use them later for green science. I also start automating electric mining drills. We're definitely going to need a lot of those, obviously. We're starting to run low on power again, so it's time to expand that out. At this point, it's going to expand out further than the size of my coal patch, so now I gotta start belting some coal in there. With all that setup complete, we're ready to automate red and green science, and greatly expand our number of labs. For the red science, we reuse our existing setup to provide us with iron gears, and then we split off some copper from our half line as well. For the green science, we reuse our belt and yellow inserter assemblers. Eventually, when all the science stacks up, these can still serve us as part of our mall. Now, we just route all the resources down, and that's our red and green science basically done. We placed down more labs than we can support, but that's all the labs that we'll need for the rest of the game. Our factory will eventually grow into it. Looking at the time, we've used a bit more than half our time, but now we can get all the rest of the research that we need for rails. From here, we just need to build out the rest of what we need. Sounds simple, but the clock is still ticking. I can still feel that pressure. At this point, I'm deviating from the speedrun guide. We're just about to trains, so I figure I can manually feed furnaces for steel and assembly machines for engines to get the rest that I need done. Engines take a bit of time to assemble, so while they're working, I can continue to manually feed my steel furnaces so that I can handcraft the rails that I need to place the train on. Once I have some engines ready, I'll be able to grab those and handcraft the train. Place it, and done. The achievement pops off and I can breathe a sigh of relief. I've got it. Sure, I needed to get some help, but I still had to build the factory out and I finished with a good amount of time to spare. So I'm pretty happy with the result. Hey everyone, thank you as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on my videos so far, and I hope that you guys found this one entertaining and informative. This achievement can be a bit of a challenge to get, but if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Please feel free to comment below with any questions or comments that you may have. I'm always happy to chat down there. Also, please do the other YouTube stuff as well, as it really helps me out. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have an incredible day.